Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ask Dr. Be Good show, the show where we bring you all the politics, the pedagogy, and the practice around public education. Well, we are at an exciting time in our new school year. Teachers are back, staff are back, and kids are coming back next week in some cases, the week after that, depending on the district, depending on the state. Some states still start around the 1st of September. Many states have started opening earlier. And so, but it is that time of buying school supplies and just thinking about what to do to get prepared for school. So being that, and before I forget, matter of fact, I will forget if I don't say this, in some states like Texas, this is the this weekend is the tax-free weekend. So if you didn't get an alert, I know today's Sunday, but there's still time today to go buy school supplies that are tax-free. So at least in Texas, this is the tax-free weekend for school supplies. All right, we have a couple of checklists here for you. One is Dr. Be Good's before school starts checklist. And I put this together and it's just based on 35 years of starting school. And not only as an educator, but as a parent, now as a grandparent. And so watching my grandkids get ready to school, maybe buy them a backpack or send money for supplies. That's just part of what this time of year, causes us to do, right? So we need to be thinking about that, but there's some things that you may be forgetting. For example, start the bed routine immediately. Let's start getting back to bed a little bit earlier, back to the, school time, school nights times, and also getting up earlier. I've got an almost 11-year-old grandchild that has gotten in the habit of getting up at 9. Well, she needs to start maybe starting at 8, and then by later next week, before she starts to school, getting up at 7 and 6:30. So it's not so hard on the body, so that the first few days of school, they're not zombie-like. Because we always know that when kids come back, and those kids that haven't held to a normal schedule that week off, they come back, and that first day they're zombies. They are tired, they're not responsive. And so let's not make the first day of school a zombie day for your kids, right? So begin with that back to bed on time routine starting now. Number 2 is chat with your kids about what kind of routines you need to change now that school is almost back in session. Things like laying out of clothes, getting bathed before bed, making lunches, helping mom make the lunches for the next day. So all of those routines, if you've not done them, you might want to think about doing them, because that's the way that you stay sane in a busy household, maybe multi-kid household, by having structures in place, routines in place that you follow and you have your kids follow, but that you've talked about and gotten their buy-in on. And I'm not saying that they have to be in agreement with everything, but what I mean is that you've included them in the conversation and the expectations, and then you have the follow through of the implementation. So number 3, check for any missing vaccines or physicals that your child's grade level requires. And what I mean by that is some grade levels require a vaccine. If you're going into middle school, and especially middle school sports, some districts require a physical that must be given to the school nurse and shown to the coach so that that child can be allowed to play on the football team or the whatever team it is. Check your district's latest mask protocol. Guidelines seem to be changing weekly, don't they? So, if you live in a state where everybody's on the same page, then it makes the job easier for the school, because then it's not the school's responsibility or the district's responsibility to say which, what expectation around masks are going to do. Everybody has to follow the same one. But if you live in a state that allows, well, first of all, I said that they are not mandating masks and will allow local control over that. That means that the district has to decide. And if the district decides that everyone has to wear masks, you have a segment of parents who will not take kindly to that. And so that all has to be dealt with. So COVID is not all the way behind us yet. And as we know, the Delta variant is rearing its ugly head. So maybe wearing the mask for the first semester might not be a bad idea, since even people with vaccines are getting the COVID. Usually about 81, 83% of those who get COVID, having been vaccinated, have the Delta variant. So, but they don't get as bad of a case, and so it makes it worthwhile to get the vaccine. Check your district's important events. You should have been getting already emails and bulletins and special dates, right? School orientation, meet the teacher night, student orientation, sports orientation by the coaches, electives, band, all of that, depending on the grade level. So as soon as you get those, make sure you calendar those, because it's awfully hard to catch up when you miss that first meeting, right? And all because we didn't put it in our calendar. So make sure that that becomes part of your practice, that as soon as you get a school email, you open it up, look at the important information, any dates that need to be remembered, put it in your phone right away, and that's a lifesaver. Make a conference to chat with teachers about any test taken last year, because frankly, no child, well, almost no kids were not impacted by COVID learning gap, right? Not all kids responded well to the virtual learning. We literally have kids who are coming back to the classroom after a year and a half of being home learning. And so there's going to be some culture shock and some learning loss that needs to be overcome. So make sure you chat with a teacher and maybe set up a chat date conference with your teacher to ask about test results from the year before. What is the teacher's plan for kids who have shown learning loss based on the test results? Be listening for talk around the small group tutoring. The ESSER funds specifically state that those ESSER funds, the federal funds that are being sent to public education schools that have a certain amount of low socioeconomic kids, must be used for instructional small group tutoring with groups no larger than 3. If the school wants to have a group larger than 3, then they must get the permission of all the parents within that group. So let's say they want to do a group of 5 or 6, all 5 or 6 parents must agree to that to be able to do it. And a good school will have already started sending out information about possibly a school night meeting around the requirements around ESSER fund usage and how their child will be impacted. Be listening for that. Ask the school counselor to meet with you if you feel like your child, especially those middle school kids who now the data are showing that they're the ones impacted the most with depression and social anxiety and so forth, because they're the ones who needed that socialization, their age group does, and they're the ones, and they didn't get it, right? And so they're the ones who are most impacted. So if you feel like your child, especially if your child's been home for a year and a half and now going to school for the first time, they're a little anxious, maybe it's time to touch base with a school counselor, put them on alert, maybe alert the teacher as well. If you have a special needs child, you should really make a point to meet, whether it's special ed, dyslexia, speech therapy, and so forth. Hopefully they're there at Meet the Teacher Night. Make a point to introduce yourself if they're new teachers to you and to your child, and ask them about when services will be starting so that you can put that on alert. A lot of times there's some schools that get sloppy and they allow themselves to go way too many weeks without starting to service kids because of paperwork and so forth. Well, that's not an excuse to not start services. So make sure you get a sort of a firm understanding of when those services are supposed to start. And if they don't, maybe a chat with the school principal would be the next thing, because you need to be the strongest advocate for your child. And for secondary parents, those of you who have been with me a while, you know that I am all about college and career readiness and understanding what that means for your child even before they hit high school, so that when you get into high school, that's most of the work's already been done as far as learning the ropes around what your child needs to do to not only know what colleges, how to apply for college, how to apply for scholarships, filling out the FAFSA, which I will entice you to look for my other podcasts on college and career readiness, where either I'm talking about it or school counselors are talking about it, but you really, really need to alert yourself on what, for example, what college and career readiness software your child's school is using. They should be starting as early as middle school. What they do is they will have the software will lead kids to an interest inventory, sort of a, if they had to do a career today, what would their current skills lead them to be? And then that should lead them, let's say that my current interests that I'm showing on the test, the assessment, is towards health services. And so I'm going to look for colleges nearby that maybe have health services, an RN program, vet, if I'm interested in animals, a vet tech program, veterinary program, and so forth. And so all of that should lead kids to figure out, if I were to be a veterinarian, where would I go to school? How much would it cost? Am I qualified to get a scholarship right now? Do I even know? Maybe I've got really good grades, and maybe I'm in 8th grade and I already started taking the pre-SAT, and I've got decent scores, which are leading us to think that possibly I might qualify. So all of those questions should be part of the conversation. No later than 8th grade, but it can certainly, some schools started even at 6th and 7th grade with that software. So ask questions, ask your school counselor. What is the college career readiness practices around here? When are we going to have the next college and career readiness meeting for middle school parents, for high school parents, and get very savvy, a way of being able to guide your child to either a vocational school, college, or military is by being involved. Check to see if your child has to take the SBAC. It is a military test that many districts choose to give, and that gives your child the understanding of how easily one could get into the military. Maybe that's a way to see the world, as they used to say, and get job training while getting paid and doing a service to the country. There's a lot of opportunity for kids, but it's a matter of parents also knowing what is going on in that area so that they can best guide their kids. You have to be an advocate. You have to ask the questions. And if by chance you aren't getting answers that you hear from me that you should be hearing, it might be time to ask more questions or come back and talk to me about it, and let me give you more words and questions to ask them about maybe when they're going to do it, why they're not doing it, and so forth. Okay. So that's the checklist to help any parent right now be able to best prepare for school opening up within the next week or two, whenever your district opens up. And as a segue, let's talk about what can we do to, during the school year, keep our teachers happy so that they have a good school year. Because if they have a good school year, guess who's also going to have a good school year? Chances are your child is going to have a good school year. I saw a meme on a LinkedIn, and it talked about happy teachers. And I thought, a lot of people are thinking happy teachers, that if I bring them a gift card or I bring them a gift, that's going to be a happy teacher. But no, that's not really what would help a teacher stay happy all year. Here is my ways to keep your teacher happy. Send them an email even before you meet them and share how excited you are that that teacher is going to be your child's teacher. Pay attention to newsletters and bulletins coming from school every week. Read them and make a note of the dates and events that are coming up. And, we talked about that earlier. That's a parent's very important job when it comes to keeping up with school stuff. Stay positive with teachers, even if a message comes in negative about your child, be open to the feedback you're getting from the teacher and be ready to discuss it. Remember, COVID's been a tough school partner with our kids. And again, a reminder, we have kids who have not been inside a school for a year and a half. And being able to learn to socially distance and use the sanitation stations and washing their hands, all of that's going to be new to a big segment of our school kids. So you may find some balking, that your child's doing some balking because they didn't have to do that at home. And so be positive, be open to what the teacher's saying. Be partnered together with the schooling and with your teacher and your kids. You know, teachers have had a tough time, parents have had a tough couple of years. Let's open up this school year, really determined to stay positive, work at some of these ways of keeping our teacher happy, and it will pay off in the end. Make sure your kid comes to school a little bit early. You know, don't come to school 10 minutes to 8 if school starts at 8. You really, really need to have a child there about 7:30, have them be able to chat with their friends a little bit, be in the building, get their temperature taken, hands sanitized, and they may still be doing the grab and go with the breakfast where they eat in their classrooms. So get them there a little bit early. School has a lot of personnel there waiting to receive your child even earlier than that. Most schools start at 7:30. So make sure that you have set the alarms, that you have set the expectation with your kids that we're going to be at school no later than blank time. Again, I'm using, if school starts at 8, be there about 7:30-ish so that your child can decompress and get ready for the day and be, you know, in being able to talk to their friends and just be ready to, you know, for first period. Pick your child up on time. Also, that's another one that makes a lot of people happy at school. Is when your kids get picked up on time, whether it's after school or the after school program. Little things like this keep school personnel happy. Volunteer at classroom events and school events. Teachers need all the help they can get. So if you're getting those newsletters and you're seeing that they have room mother needed, or school parties coming up, a PTA night coming up, make sure you put that in your calendar and plan to attend. Sign up for your school's PTO or PTA organization. It is so important to be involved, especially as kids get older. Unfortunately, there's a phenomenon that happens in most districts, and that is that the smaller, younger the child, the more volunteers, the more members we have for PTA, PTO. As it goes up middle school and high school, parents start dropping off saying, that kid's too old for that. I don't need to be watching him. But you really do. Those are the years that you really need to stay close to school, be known to school members so that, you can get an eye and ear of what's going on at school, especially middle school, high school, the early years of high school. There can be some rough stuff going on, especially if all the adults aren't paying attention, including parents. So it's really important that you be at school on a regular basis. Talk to your kids about how important school is and why doing well in school helps their future. Those should be ongoing talks, of course, especially if they're starting their college and career readiness interest inventories, and they come and tell you what their current skill set says that they would be good at right now. And then just always be talking about what possible future your child will have. And maybe state the expectations that you don't expect them to stay on the family payroll much after high school and college. So there's a different level of on the family payroll when you're in college than after graduation of high school. Yes, in college, you still need family support, especially the first year or two. You might not want your kids working, but sometimes you can, once they get the hang of things, kids can work and earn their own money and not be totally dependent on the parents. And that builds soft skills for the job and so forth. So it's all part of the learning experience for our kids to prepare them for the first real job, whether it's after college, after vocational school, in military. If you have negative thoughts about the teacher, don't share them with your kids, okay? We have parents who sometimes get into the habit because they, first of all, because they possibly may have experienced negative issues when they were in school. They sort of have the feeling that that's going to happen to their kid also. And so they don't have positive thoughts about school. And the question sometimes that kids get asked is, what happened to you at school today? Instead of, how was school today? You see the difference? So the child then is trained to look for the negative things that happen, that the parent can sort of validate. I knew my child wasn't going to have a good experience. And I know most of you are thinking, what? Please trust me, as a very long-term educator, we do have some parents that do fall into this negative cycle, and they pull their kid in to it. Be a parent who really watches out for that. Don't say negative things about the school or the teacher in front of your kids, okay? It's just really important. Get to know the campus administrators, the principal, the assistant principal, because they should not be, you should not know them the first time when your kid gets in trouble. All right, build a hi, how you doing relationship. How was your summer relationship? Talk to them. They're nice people. And so they want to get to know their parents also, and they don't want to meet you under negative circumstances for the first time either, or ever. But remember that they are human, and they want to do nice things for kids, and you helping them feel happy about being at school because you're helping the school with a very positive environment is just going to be, good for the whole family. So remember that. Another couple have to do with come offer help to the teacher to decorate. Teachers decorate their classrooms several times a year, right? They have to not only have the beginning of the year bulletins, but then they have to change them out after a few weeks. And then they sometimes have door decoration that they have to do for the different seasons, depending on the age level. Sometimes they have door competitions. Not that you should, sometimes, the kids should do that, but just be alert and have the teacher know that if there's decorations for the kids, that you are open to coming and helping to decorate and help the teacher with that. So another one is, have your child make homemade cards for the teacher's birthday, for holidays and other special occasions. I'll tell you a secret. Teachers tend to keep homemade cards, especially if they have cute little notes in them from your child. They keep them forever. They'll keep them in a special drawer someplace, and they'll go through them, and it'll bring back happy thoughts of that school year. So, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but those are sort of arts and crafty things. Just, think of the teacher, again, birthdays, holidays, but also every once in a while, just because the teacher made your child feel good that day. And if you're making brownies, cookies for the family for dessert, why don't you tuck 1 or 2 brownies or 1 or 2 cookies away in a Ziploc and send it off with your kids to the teacher. Doesn't have to be often, but again, it's ways of making the teacher feel like her parents are thinking about him or her, and just sort of sharing in the family wealth of cookies and brownies and so forth. So notice that most of what I talked about to make a teacher happy doesn't take money. It may take a little bit of time and maybe a little bit of effort in getting kids to make the cards, for example. If the kids are old enough, maybe they can come in and help decorate with you. But if you're a long-time listener, I'm all about building relationships. I'm all about getting to know that, you have to, they have to know you care before they will, frankly, do anything. And teachers are human. And if they know that your family cares for them and supports them, your child will be in better hands. So some of these make common sense, but I've put them all in a little checklist for you. I'm going to put them on the Ask Dr. Be Good Facebook page so that in case you forget or you want to share them, you can do that also. Or refer back to them, maybe print them and put them up on your fridge on a magnet. And every once in a while, just look over it and remember and say, I gotta do something special for the teacher. I haven't done that in a while. My child hasn't done that in a while. And so my hope is that all of you will have a wonderful school year, that we're sort of getting off the dust of COVID, this third year that we're going into, and that all will be going more back to normal. I know that we have less social distancing. We have 3 feet instead of 6 feet, that we are with our friends again. We have face-to-face instruction, that will get real instruction. It won't be virtual instruction at school anymore. It'll be the old-fashioned teachers teaching, teachers asking questions, kids are taking part in their learning. So thank you everyone for being here. I hope that, again, you have a wonderful start of the new school year. And for those people who don't have school-age children, let me remind you that coming here, becoming an advocate, sharing the Ask Dr. Be Good information to help not only you, but others become a stronger advocate for public education is the necessary thing to do. We need to make sure that our parents, grandparents, people without kids understand that if we don't educate these current kids, then this generation, next generation really well, then our economy will suffer in the future. So let's not have that happen. Let's pay attention to our teachers. Let's pay attention to our kids. And let's make sure that we all have a brighter future in mind. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you.